Okay, so I will be covering what is Motion and recently rebranded to the Filecoin REST API, why use Motion, how it works, getting started, and our roadmap. So what is Motion? From my last presentation, you saw that there's a lot to get involved in both storing and retrieving data from Filecoin, where wouldn't it be great if there was just an API where you could say, I want to put my data on and I want to get my data back, and all of the complications are abstracted for you, and that's exactly what the Filecoin REST API is. It's a simple set of APIs. It's really fundamentally a post, a get, and a get status to be used by an independent software vendor to store and retrieve data from Filecoin and track the status of the data stored. We're focusing on the user of an independent software vendor, someone who is getting clients themselves, perhaps has backup already to different clouds or on-prem and wants another storage tier on Filecoin. It's tended to be integrated with user-facing data storage software, such as an S3 gateway, and it's not, even though it's a simple API, it's not intended to be used directly by unsophisticated end users because you're actually running the server that has the API yourself. So you actually run what we call like the Motion engine that exposes this API in a data center or cloud. It's deployable via Docker, and it's meant for large amounts of data being onboarded over time. Call it 1 TB per day. So who is Motion for? So if you review this cycle of users, there's the enterprise client. And what do they want? They want to be able to store and retrieve any data through a familiar portal that stores data on Filecoin as the backend. And then we have the storage provider who they just want to charge an enterprise to store data. And the independent software vendor sits in between the two. So it's this middleman between the enterprise client and the storage provider that's helping the integrate so that you can say to the enterprise client, you can expose this easy interface to store data, and you can get the data over to the storage provider without the storage provider or the enterprise client having to negotiate and deal with the complexities themselves. So why use Motion? We went ahead and built this and worked on this because we found that other options had shortcomings in the ecosystem. For other options we've seen are proprietary. There are some people who have built a similar type of solution in-house, but they are not sharing that. I think a couple are licensing it, but even that is kind of lagging. Some are just used internally, whereas Motion is completely open source. Ease of use, on other tools, we found that you have to use other tools around it. The real goal of the Filecoin REST API is to make a very easy to use interface to store and retrieve data from Filecoin. It's a one-stop solution, abstracts all of the Filecoin specifics. You need to have minimal knowledge of the Filecoin stack, and but you also have control. Since it's self-hosted, you can run it in your wherever you want to run it. You can run multiple instances. You can figure out how to configure it for the application that you're using to get your data on Filecoin. And support, right now, there is a team at Protocol Labs very focused on this problem in this project and is iterating very fast. So if you actually have any interest in this project, and we'd love to hear and get feedback, and we can even, we'll develop our roadmap based around the usage. This is a very scalable solution. It's built to support large petabyte level of data. So how does it work? The independent software vendor, the ISV, basically, is running the Motion engine, the Motion software package in a Docker, and inside that, when you hit this API with a post, it is using under the hood some other tools that we have built, such as data prep is being done by Singularity. There's a deal-making module handled by Singularity. The retrieval module will be using Lassie. There's a tracking database that uses Singularity. There's a staging area to store the data before the deal happens and the data is offloaded, and a staging area to process and retrieve data. So this Motion package living on the ISV then actually sends the data off to storage providers to store the data. This is a ongoing project. Right now, we have a testable API is ready that anyone can use to integrate their apps now, to test it out, to see, like, is this interface make sense? And we also have an S3 compliant API that can sit in front of Motion so that you can use the S3 semantics, like put object, get object, put bucket, et cetera, in front of Motion and get the data stored on Filecoin using complete S3 semantics. You can interface with one simple API that handles the data preparation and deal making for you. That is ready to be tested right now. So if you're an ISV and you want to be able to store blobs of data on Filecoin, you just can use this Motion piece and not have to worry about things. You don't even have to know the term singularity or lassie, et cetera. It's just all abstracted for you. This is the kind of the Swagger view of the API in case you want to know, like, this particular specifics, and kind of I think it shows how simple it is, where you can just post with the like an ID for your blob, and you or you just post to blob and you have, you know, your data uploaded. A get, you provide the ID, you get back your blob, and then you can do a get blob ID status, so you can get the status for any given ID. When was the last time this was proved on the network? So it's giving you the benefits of Filecoin in this really easy to use framework where you know that it was actually proven, when was it proven for you. We also, as I was saying, we have an S3 connector already up and ready that you can test with. If you want to give it a try, you can go to Motion S3 connector repo. You're going to want to install the Docker, and then you'll follow the instructions and set up, and it should be very simple. We are using another, like, S3 open source implementation that is very seasoned and has a very extensive S3 API built out and has been performance tested over years on very high performance storage workloads. So the roadmap, the alpha release is coming end of September. With that, you'll be able to interface with this one simple API to handle data preparation, deal making, deal tracking, and retrieving data. The beta release is targeted for mid-November. So in addition to the alpha, we'll have partial retrievals. This is just byte range requests. And right now in the alpha, we have a 31 gig limitation that will be expanded to 5 TIBs. We will remove an observability component we have in the alpha, so the ISVs don't have to share logging back to PL. And we will make sure that we are respecting API backwards compatibility. Right now in the alpha, we do not promise that there will be forwards compatibility. The post will also support larger uploads, and the motion behind the S3 connector will support this as well. And we are working on documentation that includes best practices and troubleshooting guides for advanced use cases. So please use the QR code to join the private beta and propel data into Filecoin via a simple API.